after that experience, I am just over the moon, and it's mind-blowing. I still can't believe the day and night difference from that night when I ate quite a bit of mushrooms and I woke up and am just a different, I don't want to say a different person, but I am whole, and it's kind of unbelievable. You hear that 10 years of therapy when you do psychedelics, and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm sure, that's cool. I hope that works for some people. I literally woke up feeling like I did 10 years of therapy.
Welcome to the Worth the Fight podcast, where we bring you powerful conversations surrounding the sensible and therapeutic use of psychedelics and plant medicines towards healing trauma. I'll introduce you to guests who, through their own personal journey and transformation, tell the Worth the Fight story. I'm your host, Matt Simpson, author of Worth the Fight, Acting for a Better World, a guide to spirituality, psychedelic medicines, and overcoming trauma. Thank you for listening. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Here we are, Worth the Fight podcast number 41. Before we dive into this gracious, long-winded introduction, I'd love to have some real talk. It's been a tough time for me. We slowed down the podcast, producing these podcasts in a timely weekly basis with all that's going on in the world, keeping up with the interviews and all that's required on social media, and balancing my coaching business that has been really busy since it's been thriving since the pandemic hit back in March. And it's been a lot. We're in some wildly precarious times, and the energy is heavy. But there's some really good news. We got an incredible episode here, and a queue full of inspired guests. And I am feeling very inspired and ready to after I record this introduction, I'm going to take a week off starting tomorrow. I'm going to take a week off of social media, and that's going to be a time to rest, time to recharge, time to do some planning and some strategizing about what's next. And I'll be spending a lot of time in meditation and prayer, working with earnest intentions of how do we get this message out to our human family, and how do we help more people that are struggling with PTSD and stuck in self-abuse. Our next guest on the Worth the Fight podcast is Juliana Mercer, a dear friend of mine. We have a unique story and unique conversation to share with y'all. Juliana has truly a incredible healing journey with ayahuasca and Psilocybin. She's a dear friend of mine and a special human being, one of a kind. She's a United States Marine who has served our country, and she stepped outside the pale to heal and to get right. And she's got so much courage and graciousness and humility, and to have that contrast with her just very strong warrior spirit, throwing in a servant's heart, has got me really excited about this episode, reinvigorated on this service mission to get plant medicines to our warriors, our United States veterans amid a mental health crisis and suicide epidemic. I'd like to plant a seed here and have you, the listener, imagine what healing our veterans with plant medicines might mean for our troubled times, for these precarious, uncertain times, what it might mean for community resilience for our great nation and human family. We trust our warriors. They've gone ahead and served. They've acted. And I think that matters in a time of grave mistrust. Yeah, Juliana, she's been in a real-life hell and has seen and lived through war and destruction. And it really, truly warms my heart to hear her emanate joy and grace and love and compassion after the experiences that she's had, to experience or to share openly and honestly her overcoming and her transformation it's touching. It's truly touching. I cried while prepping this outline and really thinking of the gravity of what this might mean for people that are hurting, people that are struggling, and to hear a warrior that articulates her healing in the manner in which she does is it's really inspiring. So I don't want to give it all away. In addition to the incredible healing that she's done, she is a living, walking, breathing, vibrant, inspired testimonial for the Heroic Hearts Project. She has done her healing at Soltera Healing Center in Costa Rica and has been through the program. She can speak to that, and she does speak to the benefits of that. As you all know, the Heroic Hearts Project, we've had Jesse on the show on number 3 and recently on Worth a Fight podcast number 39. And it's inspiring to think of what might be possible as we keep getting this mission and message of hope and healing out, so we can serve more people that are struggling and hurting, so we can get access, medicines that actually work, to our war veterans that have fought and they've served and are only looking to enjoy the freedoms that they so bravely fought for. And I think that these plant medicines can offer that, and they can offer a second opportunity. And again, they reinforce our communities. This is something that is love-based, that we can all rally around. I knew that this would be a really long intro, but without further ado, I give you my conversation with my dear friend, Juliana Mercer. Thank you so much for listening. I'm here with my dear friend, Juliana Mercer. Juliana, how have psychedelic medicines informed your path?
They've opened me up to a completely new world that I didn't know existed. Prior to psychedelics, I thought that I was a pretty loving and accepting and caring person, and that I was empathetic. And that was actually something I really prided myself on. But even my first couple experiences with psychedelics, I recognized that I wasn't in tune and as empathetic as I really thought I was. And the psychedelics really connected me to that part of myself. And I've been growing that part of myself exponentially ever since.
Beautiful, beautifully put. We have a fun backstory of how we met. And, I'd love to share that with our audience. I'd met you in Washington, D.C. Was it 2 years ago or so, roughly?
At least, maybe 3.
I think so. Okay, maybe 3 years ago. And, it was out of character for me at that time to be going belly up at a bar, but I was on vacation. I was thinking, a glass of wine, a sandwich, and to meet you and to hit it off with a female soldier who's psychedelic friendly was in the time that I was in a tough spot with a lot of challenges with the work that I was doing with VET. And, I gained so much clarity from our conversations, and I've been continually inspired by you and your journey. And, do you have any thoughts and impressions about how we met and the time? And it felt like a divine appointment. I continually say that you're the only person that I've been set up on a date by the universe.
Yeah, for sure. It was pretty epic. I overheard you say something, I think it was about Chicago, and it was your first time in DC. And I was like, what? How is this your first time in DC? And, decided to chat you up because you were the only other person sitting far, far away on the other opposite side of the bar. And I feel like that's been a really good place to have the most intense and crazy conversations with strangers. So I'm glad that I reached out to you from across the way. And we immediately had psychedelics and veterans in common. And it's interesting to me because that's not something that you normally lead off a conversation with is, oh, I eat mushrooms or I do. Are you doing? My name's Juliana. But you just know, like those conversations that I've had with just complete strangers, there's just this like weird connection. You just know that that person is open and has something to share with you. And that's literally what happened with us.
Beautiful account. And absolutely. Yeah. The veterans and psychedelic topic was something that was very resonant. Of course, you've served. You were you take an oath for life, a United States Marine, and at that time, I had never met a female soldier, and I was an attractive female soldier, and I was very smitten. And yeah, it was extraordinary to have your listening ear and thoughtful feedback for some of the plights that I was having at that time. And it's warmed my heart to see your path and progression, and having just had your first healing retreat at Salterra in Costa Rica back in, what was it, late 2019?
Yes, I was there in December of 19.
Can you speak to that experience?
Yeah, so when you and I chatted, you told me about an organization called Heroic Hearts Project. It's a nonprofit that connects veterans with post-traumatic stress to ayahuasca for healing of that post-traumatic stress. And I heard about it, looked it up, and loved everything that they were doing, was sending people their way. And the founder, Jesse Gould, reached out to me and was like, who are you? Thanks for sending these people our way, but who are you? And we had a phone conversation, and a couple of weeks later, he called and asked if I wanted to go to Soltara. And no brainer, I said yes. I had always, throughout all my experiences, I've always felt like I didn't need to pursue anything. I didn't need to seek out ayahuasca or seek out, the medicines that they would present themselves to me at a time that was right. I had other opportunities to partake in ayahuasca, and it just wasn't the right time, and I didn't want to seek it out. And I told myself I'll do it when it falls in my lap. And that phone call was ayahuasca falling in my lap. So it was perfect timing. I got to go with, there were 6 other veterans there. There were 2 from the US, 2 Canadians, and 2 British soldiers. The 2 Americans were both, one of them was a former Marine. And he ended up being my neighbor during our 4 ceremonies,
okay.
Which was really awesome. One, because, we're Marines, we have a special connection, but being next to him and throughout his journey, and seeing the amazing healing, not just seeing it, but feeling the healing that was happening next to me was absolutely incredible for one of my brothers. And it just solidified the fact that I wanted to share this with everybody, every brother and sister in arms that I could, that needed it.
Powerful account that you were there and able to witness that. And I was watching your journey from afar from social media, and it really warmed my heart to hear that you are engaging this, and I love the very sane outlook of waiting for it to come to you, and it felt right. It was the time for you to investigate and see what this is all about, and it's wonderful to know that you've been sharing this with your brothers and sisters, and knowing the depth of the mental health crisis that our war veterans are struggling. We got the 22 a day, and so many that are stuck in self-abuse, and the systems that we have in place, they're not working. And I just applaud your your grace and compassion and your willingness to share and to raise your hand. And that was one of the things that really drew me to you at first, was this idea that you're so connected in the veteran space, and you have such a compassionate heart, and you've been working to help veterans and their plight coming back from service time. So it's really warms my heart to know that these medicines have impacted you in a positive manner. What was your overall takeaway from that healing retreat in Costa Rica?
That was part of I think a greater journey in psychedelics. My introduction to ayahuasca, it was a difficult start. For some reason, I need more medicine than others, and so it took us a while to figure out how much I actually needed in order to experience the plant. And so I had quite a frustrating first few journeys. And the final evening, so I did 4 ceremonies total. The final evening really got in touch with the plant and just felt it come in and cleanse me, fill me. I felt all of this, like, just negative, bad things that weren't good. I didn't know what they were. I could feel them just kind of getting pulled out of me, and kind of like water flowing out of me. And I could feel the ayahuasca spirit like filling me up with joy, and this joy that I hadn't felt in a really long time. And it was telling me, this is what you've been missing, is that joy that you used to have. And we're going to start I got opened up to being able to have that joy inside of me. And I don't know, it was a really interesting revelation. Like, I was in a place where I wasn't sad, I wasn't depressed, but I wasn't happy, and I wasn't whole. And I felt like I was stuck in this middle, like just this middle purgatory of just getting by every day. I was doing all the things that I knew to do. I still think I was, doing self-care really well. I had a good social circle. I was still doing work that was really fulfilling, but there was just something missing, and I did not know what it was. And it was extremely frustrating not knowing what it was. And nothing conventional seemed to help point me in the right direction. So recognizing that my joy was missing was a pretty big moment for me. And opening that door to fill me back up with the joy that I had was probably the biggest takeaway from my ayahuasca experience.
That's powerful, very powerful experience to reconnect with that. And what do you think looking at it objectively now, we're many months out from this experience, and reflecting on that purgatory, that kind of that middle ground that you said that you were in, was that PTSD from the war, or was that what is the mechanism here with this plant medicine that everyone has a big smile about when they talk about, and like, what is going on with this? You'd mentioned the plant spirit filling you up, but what is the mechanism, and how do you think it helped unburden yourself of that weight maybe that you were carrying?
So for me, it was a lot of residual buildup. We're all equipped to manage and handle things differently. I think I count my blessings in just the way that I was built. I've experienced a lot of really crazy, messed up things, and none of those things have taken me out. A lot of those things should have taken me out, but they didn't. And I just kept moving forward after, one thing after the other. And, I don't know that it's that I never really dealt with them, but there was just this little residual of all of these different things that stuck with me from, even from being a child, being a teenager. The Marine Corps certainly impacted me. And I think the thing that was most impactful and just kind of bogged me down was the fact that I cared for other Marines that were wounded, and that I had so many friends that are no longer with us or are experiencing what I call getting into that black hole of post-traumatic stress. And just all of that care that I was giving, I think broke down, took a lot away from me. And on top of that, the residual buildup of all the things that I experienced in life that, I just kept pushing forward. They were all there, and they all kind of built up and gunked me up. When I was recalling my experience on that fourth ceremony, and just like the bad stuff flowing out of me, and I didn't know exactly what it was, but it was just like all this residual of things that, I may have forgotten about them, but it was still there, it was still in there, and it was still in my body. My body actually takes on a lot for me. I have always had really intense like neck and shoulder pain. And when I get upset, whether I know that I'm upset or not, like my shoulders will just light on fire. And it's something that I'd never been able to figure out how to keep from happening. And when I was experiencing ayahuasca, I was rubbing my shoulders, and I know that that's where I keep all the residual. I was rubbing my shoulders, and they were just melting, like the hard buildup was just kind of melting away like butter. And I started laughing and got the giggles, and it was so absolutely incredible, because I knew that those things were in there. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know how to get rid of them, but they were slowly like crumbling apart. And I didn't expect something physical like that. And so that really surprised me, that I was actually feeling like my body like let go of things. And like it wasn't me like tripping, feeling that happening. Like it was literally like happening. My shoulders were getting softer, and all that stress was just melting away. And so all of that buildup, all those years, not any one traumatic event, but a lot of different traumatic events, just all piled up, slowly started to leave me.
Thank you. Thank you for that heartfelt share, and that heartfelt vulnerable share. The mechanism and this idea, there's so much to unpack there. There's that notion of how we store emotions, we store memories in our fascia. I'm hearing more and more about that. And that's an incredible account that you could tie the two together in real time to, be massaging your shoulder. And I hold a lot of stress in my shoulders too. So I get that, and pain in the neck. Like there's a reason why they call it a pain in the neck, and that's where I would get pains. And for you to experience that while under the influence of this medicine, and to actually confront or to witness those memories and those things just falling off to the wayside and flowing out of you with the power of this intuitive medicine it's phenomenal. When you think about it, and really exciting, and it goes contrary to so much of the way that we're taught about what we are and the body. And yeah, I also want to honor your open and honest share about the war and about your service time and having carried that weight of having lost brothers and sisters, and maybe not confronting that head on, but just moving on, and we keep moving on. We live in this go world where it's very common for us not to take the time to process and to grieve. And I just want to honor that. And you had said something, in the way that you said it was really exciting. You were talking about how all these things have happened to you, and nothing has taken you out. And it's like, that is that warrior spirit that has captured my heart, and is why I believe in healing the hearts and minds of those that know honor, integrity, and courage, healing the hearts and minds of those that know leadership and discipline, but they just need medicines that work. And yeah, so thank you for illuminating that warrior spirit and sharing your experiences. Have you, I know on our pre-call we talked about your experiences with psilocybin. Have you found benefit with? I think you'd even said that is your plant. I know there's a full spectrum medicine of all these different medicines that we can deploy in addition to all of these strategies of yoga and meditation and exercise and nutrition and all that stuff, which is part of the integration process. But can you speak to the value of psilocybin, which is, that plant spirit's a little bit more playful and a little bit more soft?
Yeah, I think the fact that it's playful might be the reason that it connects with me so much. And that joy that was missing connects really well with the psilocybin. Actually, while I was at Soltara and I was experiencing ayahuasca, there was a small longing in my spirit for my connection with mushrooms. And it was interesting. I didn't know what to make of it while I was there. And I was just like, oh, well, I just really love my mushrooms. They make me so happy. But I thought it was interesting that I was longing for them and longing for that connection that I had with them and how they made me connect to the universe, because I was in such a beautiful place at Soltara. And so after my ayahuasca experience, coming home, I connected with a coach that's helped me do a couple of solo journeys. And a lot of the things that I was hoping to get from my ayahuasca experience, I actually got through my solo psilocybin experiences. I've done a couple now, and the first one was really, really intense, probably more intense spiritually than my ayahuasca experiences were. But I feel like that experience with ayahuasca opened me up to be able to move forward with this other healing modality, and got me ready to purge and receive the things that I needed to purge and receive. I shed an intense amount of grief. Again, that buildup. There was grief from all different directions and things that maybe I didn't know I needed to grieve, because again, I just keep moving forward and continue charging on. And it was so beautiful. I cried and let so many things go. I don't know how many hours I cried. I lost track. But I woke up and my face was very, very puffy, but I felt like $1,000,000. Like I looked in the mirror and I was like, whoa, whoa, what happened? But the way that I felt was so absolutely incredible, to not have that grief that I didn't even know was there. And it was gone. And I've literally been skipping every day since. That was a couple of months ago. And I have this huge weight that I didn't know was there, just completely lifted. And I'm so happy and joyful, and I'm so ready to tackle new things and experience new things. And I almost feel guilty. Everybody around me, and I think all over the world, are experiencing so much pain and the fear of the unknown with COVID and our financial crisis, and even our political, the state of our politics in the United States. There's just so much going on that a lot of people are having a really hard time dealing with. And all of that stuff, was something that I was also dealing with. But after that experience, I am just over the moon, and it's mind blowing. I still can't believe the day and night difference from that night when I ate quite a bit of mushrooms and I woke up and just I don't want to say a different person, but I am whole. And it's kind of unbelievable. You hear that 10 years of therapy when you do psychedelics. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm sure, that's cool. I hope that works for some people. I literally woke up feeling like I did 10 years of therapy, and I had a better handle on who I was, my purpose, and what I wanted to achieve as a person, as a human.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for that share, and really warms my heart to see you light up. And this notion that a peak psilocybin experience could give you so much relief and so much catharsis. And I had this big smile on my face when you were talking about that full night of just crying and letting go. And I've had a similar experience when I was in Costa Rica on a critical juncture, ceremony for me on my healing journey, where pillow was soaking wet in the morning when I woke up, and I was carrying all of that grief, and the way that you described that was very viscerally resonant from my personal experiences, and that you could have that experience, and that this notion of and I think that ayahuasca, it stays in us, and that spirit is part of us, and obviously at that time you weren't ready for that breakthrough, or it just didn't happen for whatever reasons. We could sit and analyze and this and that, but it is what it is. You had a tremendous transformative experience, and clearly we're ready to go to those places and to process that grief. Yeah, I just want to honor your experience and honor your courage for leaning into that and to feeling it all, and to see your vibrant smile on the other end of that, and to know that this joy that you're feeling is emanating out of you and is sustained. And of course, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I would imagine that there's still a lot of work to be done with integration, but there's maybe a knowing after that experience, and reconnecting to that is something that you won't forget.
Yeah, definitely. And just knowing that I don't want to call it an easy fix, because it was definitely very hard. A hard journey that night was pretty intense, but knowing that it's there for me and that I can access it and connect with the medicine makes me smile. Like knowing that it's there, like knowing that I can share with other people. I think that's probably the biggest smile, is that I can share with other people, being able to share the story of, my solo journey, the impact that my solo journeys have had with other people, and seeing them start to take interest in this healing modality has really been something that brings me even more joy. Being able to share and help others is huge for me, and knowing that I can share this with other people is really a big deal, because I really want everyone that I care about, and even strangers that may be listening to this, to know that there's a different way, and that there's a healing that can occur that I never imagined what happened to me that night would ever happen. And the healing that happened was just mind-blowing. And so I want to shout it from the rooftops.
Beautiful. Let's disseminate this and get this all out to all four corners of our big, beautiful planet. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Worth the Fight book. You can pick up your copy on Amazon, Kindle, or you can find the Worth the Fight audiobook read by me on audible.com. I'm donating all of the book profits to veteran charitable organizations that are doing vitally important work, facilitating psychedelic healing in our U.S. war veterans amid a mental health crisis and suicide epidemic. Our struggling but resilient warriors are healing their hearts and minds with these powerful misunderstood medicines, and they are opening up about the harsh realities of war, sharing a bold message of peace and what might be possible. I wrote this book and started this podcast with earnest intention to share our love-based mission of hope and healing, to create awareness around a national tragedy that hits us all square in the heart. If you are digging these episodes, you'd love the book. Thank you so much for your support. You had said something a moment ago about feeling almost feeling guilty about this intense joy that you're feeling right now in our turbulent times, our precarious times, uncertain times, that with so much going on, so much unsettled energy. And I just want to say that you shining and sharing your experiences is a tremendous gift for our nation and for our human family, to raise your hand and talk about, your experiences and sharing openly and honestly. And I just want to, again, honor that, and really, really grateful to hear your experiences. This is a good segue into this spirit of activism that you've had for years. And what is heavy on your heart right now? And with the racial injustice that we're experiencing, and there's so much, I feel like the Band-Aid's been ripped off. And I love this notion that, we're in scary times, but I always say that, like, it's 50% scary, 50% just exhilarating right now to be in these times where I feel intuitively like real change is possible. What are your thoughts on that?
Just in general, I've been really encouraged by those around me that have been really open to learning and understanding. I think there's so much that we don't understand. Even those of us that are compassionate and empathetic and care about other human beings, just the magnitude of the pain and suffering that our fellow Americans have suffered, specifically minorities, Black Americans, are dreamers, children that were brought into this country by their parents and now have no real home because they're not, quote, legal. And also our issue with homelessness. So those three things like really tug at my heart, and getting educated about them is one thing, but the compassion, I think that, and the connectedness to others and to the universe that psychedelics have brought me have really helped me not feel hopeless and feel like there's things brewing that if we connect to them and help, stir that brew in the right way, that we'll be able to make an impact. And I'm already seeing positive change. I think, we've seen some, in the last month or two, we've seen some Supreme Court decisions that have been in the right direction. We've seen cities and states start to make changes in their policing, all the things that we've been collectively protesting and trying to bring light to. We're starting to see action, which I think is really promising. And my goal is to not forget about these things that right now are so front and center. Make sure that we keep pressing until there's major change, not just little change.
Love that. Love to hear your thoughts and impressions on these precarious times, and your hopefulness that, again, real change is possible. And you'd mentioned a couple rulings that had happened, and what came to mind for me is, and I was thinking I probably can't recall of any specific rulings. I see positive signals, and I've stay in my lane, and when we're talking about the injustices that's going on in the world, and the racial injustice, I can't think that there's a more troubled racist policy than our war on drugs, that has been an egregious civil rights violation, and outside of slavery, the most egregious civil rights violation, and a war on Black people and Latinos. And it's we were talking the other day about, this defund the police movement, and I had mentioned, are we asking the wrong question? Maybe if we give them sane drug laws to enforce, that we might have a different outlook. And there's so much that is coming to light with our justice system and our prisons that are, modern day Jim Crow. And it's my hope and prayer that this movement, this psychedelics as medicine movement, will in time, and I don't know, in terms of, there's decrim efforts that are going around all over our country right now, and there's a lot to be hopeful. But I wish that we were asking that question more and confronting head on this policy that was implemented under Richard Nixon and some of this egregiousness. What are your thoughts and impressions on the war on drugs?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned to you the other day that I think the war on drugs is the root of all evil. I used to, the saying is money, and I used to think it was religion, and I still think that in a way. But in our current world and our country, I think the war on drugs is the root of all evil. It's caused so much systematic oppression, and also taken away modalities of healing that are absolutely amazing and beautiful and way better than anything that pharma has been able to produce for us. So the implications of the war on drugs are so far reaching, not just in our own communities, in our own country, but all over the world. It's the death and destruction that has happened because of the war on drugs on our soil and in other countries. A lot of our neighbors are experiencing the war on drugs in a horrific, bloody way. So again, the optimist in me, I'm thankful that marijuana has paved the way, and there are communities, I know Oregon and communities in Colorado and DC are, off the top of my head, have ballot measures to decriminalize psilocybin. I think I just read that Oakland is voting on allowing psilocybin to be used in healing ceremonies. So in Oakland. So that's, I think, all positive in the right direction. Also, the FDA trials of MDMA, of ketamine for post-traumatic stress and depression, that gives me a lot of hope. And so I think it's such a education piece, back in the day, I was terrified of drugs because I listened to the DARE officer and I saw an egg being fried on a frying pan, and that was my brain on drugs. And it was, that misinformation has created so much fear. And, even today, talking to people, sharing with people about my experience with psychedelics, there's a lot of fear. They're like, oh yeah, I ate too many mushrooms in high school, or I did LSD and it was so scary and I had the worst experience. And there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of fear. And then also people have had experiences and didn't use them in the right manner. So there's a lot. I don't think we can figure out the negative depths of the war on drug in one conversation, but I definitely will hold on to that. It's probably the biggest terrorist in our lives is the war on drugs.
I love everything you're saying, and very, very resonant. And to hear you articulate your, passionate feelings towards this. And thank you for that share on the war on drugs, Juliana. Everything you're saying is resonant with me, and having it be the root of all evil. I would also like to parking lot, religion being the root of all evil as well. So when we're done with this tangent, we can let you share on that, and hopefully we can get to that before the end of the call. You had said something about Big Pharma that was really resonant. This idea that, Big Pharma hasn't done really anything for our collective mental health since the early 1990s. And they gave us Prozac and Paxil. And we got Prozac Nation, these SSRI antidepressants that barely beat the placebo, and they're highly addictive pills. I believe 1 in 4 of us are on psych medicines, 1 in 4 or 1 in 6. I think it's 1 in 6 antidepressants, 1 in 4 on, with Adderall and all that other stuff. That's a lot. And, I had a fellow Marine of yours, Brad Carson, on the Worth the Fight podcast, number 24 and 25. And he had made a point that is an alarming rate. And, that, and speaking up and raising his hand of concern, grave concern. And this is a country that you guys have and gals have taken an oath to protect and serve. And how have we gotten this far off base? Obviously these numbers are tied in at some level with the war on drugs. And it's a concern of mine as well. And what are your thoughts on 1 in 4 and 1 in 6 of us on psych meds?
Right. So we haven't had access to some healing modalities that could prevent us from needing to take pharma. So those things were created because there was a problem. I think the U.S. has compared to other countries, the U.S. has a much higher rate of mental illness than other countries. And that's also a whole other conversation. So for all the reasons, we have a higher rate of that. And pharmaceutical companies stepped up to find a treatment for that ailment. And doctors are prescribing those things very quickly. I remember I went through something and the doctor was insisting that I take, let's call it, I think it was Prozac or one of the depression drugs. I was like, I'm not depressed. I just need to work through something. And she insisted. And this was when I was in the Marine Corps. And I said no multiple times, and she still wrote me a prescription. And I never took it. And I knew that prescription wasn't right for me, that wasn't what I needed, was a medicine to help me. Thankfully, I was, I wasn't in a really deep, dark place that I felt like I needed to succumb to medication. But the fact that doctor just pressed and pressed and pressed and said, just take it, just in case you want it. And that's probably happening, all day, every day. I don't know how many times a day. It's the easy way out. And, I think I said earlier, I found this healing modality that's easy. Well, it's also not the easy way out. That dealing with your demons and your pains and all of those negative things inside of you isn't easy. But at least with psychedelics, you're actually able to confront them and deal with them. You're not masking them and you're not dulling them. You're actually dealing with them. I think the fact that I spent 4 years working with our wounded, ill, and injured Marines when they were coming back hurt. And so many of them hated what their meds were doing to them mentally. Emotionally, it was helping because it was just numbing things, but they hated that they weren't themselves. They hated just that dullness that it created. And so seeing that, I started exploring more holistic approaches to mental health and to being a whole person. And I think that experience working with my wounded brothers was that there's more than just one way to be whole and to support your mental health. So that opened the door for me, like seeing people just so debilitated and unhappy with the medications. Yes, they were helping them get through life, but they weren't satisfied and they weren't whole. And so starting to find different things, whether it was yoga or equestrian therapy or surfing or learning to play music, I started reaching out to my community and finding all these different ways to help my Marines get a better handle on their mental health. And I think that kind of opened the door for me to start thinking more openly about all the different types of things that are out there that can heal us. I don't think psychedelics are for everyone. I think they can probably help most everybody. But just like I don't think surfing or yoga is for everybody. But having access to that and knowing that there's different things out there to help you is, again, education and knowing is a big part of the problem. And being told, here, take this magic pill. It's the wrong magic pill.
Yeah, it's a pill that tranquilizes people, and it like you said, there's a numbing effect, and it's not addressing the root of the problem. I always say, like, what are we numbing? And there's a lot of depth and a lot of heaviness that is brought back from those intense experiences. I'd imagine, serving in the Middle East, or serving for a country and going to fight wars in the Middle East. And this notion of, I love your outlook about all these different other modalities, and it's wonderful to hear that there was a progression, because there are so many different tools and so many different things that work, and if someone can find relief meditating or doing yoga or surfing or horse therapy, find what works for you and go do that. I love that spirit of anti-dogma, and I think the dogma is what has got us shit up a creek here in terms of our collective mental health struggles. You had said something about religion being the root of all evil. I'd love to hear you riff on that, and what is your take on organized religion and its effect on our collective mental health, or just your thoughts in general?
So I grew up, actually, I introduced my family to evangelical Christianity. I actually went to a couple of years of Bible school after high school. I thought I was going to be an evangelist, and had everything that I personally experienced, the learning, the growth, the ways, the teachings of Jesus were all personally really positive. I still attribute that time in my life to really forming my morals and my values. And I always, while I was a believer, I'm not anymore. But when I was a believer, I always would say, if Christians, if Buddhists, if any religion, if they actually followed what their teacher said, the world would be a better place. If we actually loved people the way Jesus did, the world would be a better place, because Jesus had unconditional love according to the Bible and no judgment. So that's seeing what the books said and how people that practiced those religions actually acted was what started me down my path of not wanting to be associated with religion. And even when I was still, a believer of the Christian faith, I always distanced myself from any particular religion, and just, focused on the teachings of love, love your neighbor as yourself. That was the teachings that I focused on. But, so fast forward, a lot of things happened, war and back a couple times, understanding some of the lies that I had listened to, getting a better understanding of science, and also starting to open up my mind to everything else, all the other things going on in the world spiritually, and essentially, plant medicine. So my final ceremony with ayahuasca, I was kind of coming down, still, really euphoric. I was sitting outside of the Maloka, and the shamans' voices were swirling in the air. And I'm sitting outside, and I look up and I start talking to God. And then I get confused. I'm like, wait, why am I talking to God? I don't believe in God. And God speaks back and says, it's okay. I'm here. You're allowed to talk to me. And I was like, okay. And I'm thinking, well, I don't believe in God. And it goes, the voice says, you've just been calling me by the wrong name. We've had this relationship this entire time. You just were identifying me wrong. And so that really solidified in me that, my slow exit from Christianity and religion in general was spot on. And that the experiences that I did have while I thought I was connecting to Jesus were actually, in fact, me just connecting to the universe and connecting to, my spirit, connecting to the universe. It reconciled a couple of things for me. The joy that I had when I was in the church, and also the joy that other people saw in me. When I was at, Bible school and really entrenched in the teachings of Jesus, complete strangers would come up to me and ask me, what do you have that I don't have? Like, just complete strangers, like, would cross the street to talk to me. I was in Burger King once, and someone in line like tapped me on the shoulder, and and it happened many times. And that was the one thing that I was like, why did that happen? I couldn't make sense of it. And getting confirmation that joy was gone, and being filled with that joy, and that it was the universe filling me up with joy, and then talking to the universe and getting confirmation that those experiences were real, and it was me connecting to the universe and to everything, was really such a huge epiphany. And it just all made sense after that. So back to religion being the root of all evil. Again, if I know quite a few people that are religious and lead really beautiful lives and care for others, but those people are the ones that truly live the way that their teachings ask them to live. And so I'm not against religion. I think everybody should find what's right for them, but there's definitely a lot of evil things that have happened because of religion. And I think just like we have to reconcile all of the negative and evil and horrible things that have happened because of slavery, we need to reconcile, I think individuals need to reconcile what's happened in their religion. And there's a lot of things that they can do to make it right. And hopefully collectively we're all working towards greater awareness of ourselves and each other, and the things that we practice and the things that we do, that those that do believe in religion are gonna making corrections for their ancestors, and are choosing to live in the right way and follow the teachings in the way that they, I think, were originally intended.
Beautiful. Love the share, and thank you for breaking that down. Love your neighbor as yourself. So many of our paradigms have gotten so far off base, and there's a load of religious trauma. And it is also my hope and prayer that that will be reformed and that will be addressed. And of course, there are beautiful people that are within the churches and organized religions. And I never make an attack on the individual, but I'm attacking. And I think it's the time that we do speak up about the paradigms of belief that no longer serve the collective evolution of our human family, from the systemic child sex abuse that affects 1 in 5 of us, to that hypocrisy that you were alluding to. So thank you for going out towards the edge with me on that. Not everybody likes to talk about that, and I appreciate that bold and honest share of your account on that. I want to be respectful of your time here. I have one last question for you. I've been beating this love revolution drum for the last few years, and this idea of Hey, everyone. Why don't we come together over our war veterans amid a mental health crisis? Why don't we get them medicines that work? They know honor, they know integrity, they know courage. They've acted. Just had Jesse Gould on the show, and he was talking about the growing mistrust that we have in our world. Like, there's mistrust at all-time high rates. So I say maybe we trust the people that have gone forward and actually have acted and done and served and have shown a track record. And let's get them medicines that work. And, this is a message that I believe transcends the left and the right, and it's an exponential solution. It's the right thing to do. When I say it's an exponential solution, I say our warriors, our U.S. veterans are male, they're female, they're Black, they're white, they're, Latino, they're Asian American, Indigenous American. They cross all socioeconomic barriers, all religions. They are us. And let's get them the medicines that work. They will reinforce our this notion of community resilience and something to rally around. What are your thoughts and impressions of why people can't grasp this message, or why is this not something that more people are getting excited about? As I'm sitting here with a big smile on my face with so much optimism, I'd love to hear your thoughts and impressions.
I think there are a lot of people getting excited about it. I shared my ayahuasca journey on social media, and I was a little bit nervous because of the stigma of, drugs, psychedelics. But then when I thought about it, I was like, you know what, this is who I am. And I've always been very apologetic about who I am. And this is going to help people. And if this helps one other veteran, it's worth it. It's worth any negative backlash that I could get from people knowing that I took a psychedelic. And the response that I got was so unexpected, really positive and overwhelming in such a good way. I think right away, one of my fellow Marines a few weeks later was on his way to a retreat with Jesse. Other people reached out to me and were like, I've been struggling so much. I've heard about this, but I was scared. I didn't know if it was legitimate, and thank you for sharing. I want to learn more. So I think there's an education piece again, and I don't think it's just with veterans. I think our entire country, we've been lied to about the truth about drugs and psychedelics. And so we've been fed all this misinformation. So there's no surprise that we, don't know that it's something that could be potentially helpful and good for us. So I don't think it's just the veteran community. I think it's our community as a whole has fear and of the unknown. And they've been told something is bad for you, and when in reality it's not. So I think we're doing our part to create awareness, and I think that's the only way that we're going to get this in the hands of the people that need them, and in the hands of our veterans, is by continuing to create awareness, speaking out of the positives and the beauty that there is in healing through these modalities, and just spreading the word. And the more of us that spread the word, the more of us that share. And I think the more of us that are vulnerable in our sharing and real, we're going to be able to help people, and especially our veterans. That's my ultimate goal in sharing, is that, like I said, if just one other veteran gets healing through these modalities, I'm happy. And it's happened over and over. So I'm going to keep shouting it from the rooftops, keep sharing, and keep pushing for the decriminalization, the legalization, and supporting those organizations that are doing the research needed to get FDA approval to get these things in all of our hands.
Beautiful. Wonderful account of where we're at and why this, of really what's needed. Like you said, the creating awareness and education, those are the two most fundamental aspects here. And again, I'm wowed and proud of your brave expression, for you raising your hand, and for that warrior spirit and that compassionate heart of yours to do what's right, and to keep sharing. And it's been an absolute joy to have had this connection, not just here on the podcast, but the last few years. And I'd call you a true friend, and I'm really grateful that we've had this time, and again, continually wowed and proud of your bravery and your commitment to your own personal healing, and but also to raise your hand for our veterans and for us all. Really, I mean, we're going out into the unknown with these medicines. Our warriors, they lead us into the unknown. And, it's, as Jesse said, there's a sacred duty and responsibility that the warriors have to lead this charge, not just for the veterans, but for everyone. So again, kudos to you. And thank you for taking this time. Where can people find you? And what would you say to somebody who might be, whether they're a veteran or a civilian, might be struggling with PTSD, struggling with this, that old